Ladies and gentlemen, it's a big, weird, wild world out there, folks, and here we stand. Al pie del cañón, ready for anything. I'm Rob, that's Dan, and you're listening to
The ProBoh Show!
Good morning, everyone. It's Monday. Welcome. I can see the live audience filling up. How you doing out there, friends? You're listening to us live at 8:30 a.m. Central European Time. It's me and Dan. How was the weekend, Dan?
It was a good weekend.
Yeah? What did you do in the end?
I went to see some free concerts.
Ah, really?
Yes.
For San Isidro?
Yes.
Okay, nice. Did you go de chulapo?
No.
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 For our international listeners, chulapos and chulapas. It kind of refers to the traditional garb, the traditional clothes of Madrileño people around the festival of San Isidro. What was my weekend like? Pretty good. I went drinking on Thursday, then the lady and I, we just stayed at home and did nothing. It was magical. Anyway, shall we see what's coming up in today's show? We've got a good one for you today. Something I think the vast majority of our audience are certainly qualified to opine on. We are talking about language learning. So we ask our 100 humans today to name a good habit for learning a foreign language. Nombra un buen hábito para aprender un idioma extranjero. And today's unpopular opinion: learning a language is mostly about habits, not talent. Aprender un idioma depende más de los hábitos que del talento. That's today's unpopular opinion. It's a good one. I'm looking forward to arguing with you all about this one. But first of all, I'm here, you're here. Our amazing analog listeners are here. Our angelic podcast listeners are here. But let's turn our attention to the one and only Bohemians in the audience. Let's see who's joining us today. We have Vero in here immediately. Good morning, beautiful Bohemians around the universe and beyond. I got tickets to see Mortal Kombat tonight. Yay! Mortal Kombat, Dan, what is it?
A movie about a video game.
It's a movie about a video game. Yeah, she's not actually going to witness the real Mortal Kombat tournament. Are you going to go see that one?
No, I don't think so.
No, me neither. Nor the Street Fighter one. But when I was a kid, Street Fighter was like, I think Street Fighter came first, if I'm not mistaken, and then Mortal Kombat afterwards. Both epic, a mythology around this game and how well you could play these games. So have fun there, Vero. Born to Iron Man says, good morning, Bohemians. Good morning, Bohemians. How were your bank holidays? Oh, so good. An extra day off. My God. And how did I use it? Nothing. By doing nothing. Sleeping. Playing video games. Chilling. The Bridge, good morning, beautiful Bonnie, bouncy Bohemians, bouncy Bob, and darling, dashing, dandy, dutifully dexterous Dan the Radio Man too. Whew. Of course. I'm up and crushing today. Good to hear it, Bridge. Bridge is vertical today. Vero says, not so well, my mom had a vertigo attack. Oh, sorry about that, Vero. And Jareom's here. Good morning, Rob. How are you doing? Very well, Jareom. Better for seeing you here. And finally, the Bridge again. So the analogs are no longer dirty, filthy lurkers, Rob. Not on this show. We appreciate everyone who listens on this show. And also Carmen with us. Oh my God, we've got a full crowd. Close the doors, guys. Close the doors. Otherwise, it becomes impossible to read your comments. Anyway, shall we get into it, Dan? All right, here we go. First piece of news. Dan, I think you will relate to this piece of news. I think you'll appreciate the cut and thrust of it. It's from Axios. An AI hate wave is here. Ha llegado una ola de odio hacia el IA, or inteligencia artificial. Do you hate AI, Dan?
Well, yes.
But you don't hate the actual bots. You just seem to hate that I talk about it. Right? Let's be honest, Dan. Let's start the week on an honest note.
I hate AI used as an artist. I don't hate it as an information access.
I hear you. That's an interesting and quite prescient, I think, angle to take this on. Because I think most people would agree. We don't mind it as a tool, but when it starts to step on our toes, cuando nos pisa un poco a nuestros habilidades, then we start to get a little bit anxious, don't we? So let's get into this. This is from Axios, an AI hate wave. Ola de odio. AI is running into a real backlash. Despite the hype around the technology, the article argues that public sentiment is getting worse, not better. Americans across age groups and political parties increasingly think that AI is moving too fast, driven by fears about job loss, higher electricity costs, environmental damage, and wealth concentration. Yeah, I think we should all be worried about that. About all of those points, right? AI job loss, as we've seen across many sectors, particularly in marketing, creative fields like, those entry-level positions like copywriters, writers for they eventually become journalists or eventually become writers in more important fields. You start off as copywriters. Well, no one's copywriting anymore. We'll just type a prompt into ChatGPT. Higher electricity costs. If you live anywhere near a data center, you'll know a lot about that. Environmental damage. Of course, these data centers require vast amounts of water. So not only are your electricity bills going up, so your water bills. And wealth concentration. I mean, do we need to talk about that? About Elon Musk, Sam Altman? Come on. I mean, the amount of time I've spent on this show talking about the economic wells created in modern society. And then you accuse me of being a socialist. Telling you, I'm not a socialist right now, Dan. Do you know why? It's tax season. Not a socialist around tax season. I want to keep as much money in my pocket as possible. Anyway, let's continue. I'm being glib, of course. Don't take me too seriously. Americans across age groups and political parties are expressing concerns. The piece points to recent polling showing low optimism among young people and broad concern nationwide. Of course, Axios is an American publication, suggesting that enthusiasm inside the tech industry is increasingly out of step with how the public feels. And we've seen this a million times before. I know you're thinking, no, Rob, this is a really unique issue. No, we have. IoT, the Internet of Things. Does your toaster really need to tell you the time and temperature outside? No, it doesn't. Do you really need your washing machine to have an app? No. But tech companies take it upon themselves to just throw tech into everything. Do you need your search engine to give you AI answers? No, you don't. AI is being, the ubiquity of it now is annoying to a lot of people. It is certainly to me. Anyway, let's continue on with this interesting article from Axios. That backlash is starting to matter beyond perception. The article says resistance to AI is already affecting the industry's growth, especially through opposition to data centers that provide the computing power AI needs. Analysts and investors are beginning to see public pushback again as a real constraint, while critics argue that AI's expansion is not inevitable just because the technology exists. The article ends on the idea that AI may remain part of daily life, but the form it takes will depend on public trust, political choices, and whether the industry can address the worsening PR problem. Where do you think we'll be 5 years from today, Dan? Do you think we'll be in a situation where... hang on. Hacia la IA, says Vero. Thank you, Vero, if I made a mistake there.
Yes, because it's a feminine name.
Yeah, inteligencia artificial. Yeah, intelligence really should be. Intelligence in any of its guises should be feminine, shouldn't it? Anyway, so what do you think, Dan? Where we will be in 5 years' time? Do you think AI will continue with its popularity, or at least with its ubiquity, crowbarred into every app and website and probably device coming soon? What do you think?
I think apps and movies and every kind of media will have an etiquette.
This is AI generated.
Or the contrary, this has not AI.
So you know what? I agree with you. I think so. I think, like, the other day I was looking through some of my drawings. There's a drawing I want to start soon. And I was thinking to myself, maybe I should actually let people know that this wasn't AI generated, that it was created by a human. Because if I saw that kind of a tag, not AI generated, I would feel a certain amount of enthusiasm towards anything. Nothing in this book was used AI. Oh, I'll have a read of that. And I can only see that getting stronger, that impulse to pull away from AI, to getting stronger. A real marketing boon made by humans, right? As I've said many times in the past with regards to AI, I foresee, and I think it's, I think it was maybe a strange idea when I said it, and increasingly less so as time passes, that I see a real renaissance for human endeavor. We'll see much more of an appreciation for human endeavor, whether that endeavor or human creativity, whether that be work of art or whether it be building a cabinet, whatever it is. I think we'll start to see much more of a marketing push towards things that are created by humans. Because let's face it, it starts with public backlash, and then marketing adapts. So eventually marketing will cotton on to the idea that if we tell people, if we make it a USP, do you know what a USP is?
No.
Unique selling point. So if we make it a USP that this was created by humans, people will have a positive outlook on this. Because let's face it, if marketing is anything, it's predatory. Right? Okay, so there you go. There you have it. Yeah, they're from Axios. I will, of course, post the link in my Patreon for you guys to enjoy at your own time. Do have time for one more piece of news, I think. Yeah, let's do this one. Generation Z. You guys, Dan. You guys. Generation Z calls degrees useless. Los carreras. Or los títulos universitarios. Gen Z calls degrees useless, but 20 years of data tells a different story. Graduates are still the least likely to be unemployed. La generación Z llama inútiles a los títulos universitarios, pero 20 años de datos cuentan una historia diferente. Los graduados siguen siendo los menos propensos al desempleo. Gen Z, this is coming from Fortune, by the way. Gen Z may be calling college degrees useless, but the data tells a more complicated story. A Fortune article drawing on 20 years of US Bureau of Labor Statistics figures says that adults aged 25 and over with a bachelor's degree still have the lowest unemployment rate of any education group. In 2006, unemployment stood at 2.2% for college graduates compared to 6.9% for people without a high school diploma. And in early 2026, the gap remained similar, roughly 2.8% versus 6.4%. The article argues that while degrees no longer feel like a guaranteed path to wealth or stability, they offer a clear edge in staying employed. At the same time, the piece explains why so many young people feel disappointed with higher education. Graduates are dealing with student debt, having high living costs, weak entry-level opportunities, and a sense that trades, startups, and AI-related paths may offer better returns. Even so, degree holders still tend to earn more, with the article citing that bachelor's graduates make about 66% more per week than high school graduates, and that many top-paying roles still favor advanced degrees. Yeah, but they are burying the lead there, aren't they? Because, of course, when you get out of university, you're saddled with a lifelong debt. Just like you've bought a home. And then, with weak entry-level positions, as they really glossed over thanks to AI, then how do you get your first rung on the ladder? It's interesting, and we maybe talk about this further in future shows, but I will post the links to both those articles, the Axios one and the Fortune one, in my Patreon if you want to check them out later. Let's move on to today's unpopular opinion.
Unpopular opinion.
Okay, friends, here we are in familiar territory. We're talking about language learning. I'm interested in your opinion on this. Today's unpopular opinion is learning a language is mostly about habits, not talent. Aprender un idioma depende más de los hábitos que del talento. It's an interesting one, this. It's interesting because someone who's like myself, who's a musician or an artist, like a visual artist, I would argue that this is true. That it's much more about habits than it is about talent. But when I tell people, look, why don't you take up painting or drawing? They say, oh, that's not for me. I wasn't born with artistic ability. Right? And I've even done it as an unpopular opinion on the show. That anyone could be an artist, anyone could be a musician, anyone could be a singer. And you say, no, I wasn't born with the don, with the talent, el talento, to do something like that. However, then we switch the skill to language learning, and everyone says, hang on a minute, no, it's habits, it's not talent. So why that discrepancy? Why do we tend to feel that language learning is within the reach of anyone with the time and inclination to learn, but art is not? I mean, at the end of the day, you study a language degree. It's a Bachelor of Arts. It's not a Bachelor of Sciences. Okay, so using that as a benchmark, there seems to be a weird discrepancy there. So let's dig into it, shall we? So I made the statement: learning a language is mostly about habits, not talent. Aprender un idioma depende más de los hábitos que del talento. How do you think people voted, Dan?
I think they voted true.
They did vote true. 87% of people said true. So it's interesting, right? How do you feel about this, Dan?
I think it's true as well. I personally think that everything is about habit and not talent.
Yeah, me too. Me too, if I'm honest with you. But why then, when you're confronted with people who say, oh, no, I'm not artistic? The frustrating thing about that is I put a lot of work into being an effective writer, into being an effective visual artist, into being, a competent musician. Just an incredible amount of work. I was useless at those three things. And I've dedicated a lot of time. And people say, oh no, you're so talented. That's a talent. You were born with these gifts. And it annoys the hell out of me. But it seems to be with languages, we tend to take a more rational approach, don't we? So let's get into it. I see a lot of comments appearing in the chat. I will get to those, of course, in the second part of the show. So do keep writing. Of course, the pro column won this one. 87% said true. It's more about habits than talent. So let's get into it, shall we? Consistency beats intensity. Daily exposure and repetition build language ability more effectively than occasional bursts of study, regardless of natural aptitude. So here the elves are not saying, no. There are people out there with a natural aptitude to learning languages. I mean, researchers often break this down into several different areas, right? For example, phonetic coding or sound discrimination. A lot of people born with a higher propensity to differentiate sounds, hearing, remembering, and imitating unfamiliar sounds. Phonological working memory, like holding new sound patterns in your mind long enough to learn words and phrases. Grammatical sensitivity, noticing how words function in a sentence, is a gift some people are born with. Inductive language learning ability, spotting patterns and rules from examples. Associative memory, linking new words and forms with meanings. All these things are natural abilities that researchers have studied a great deal. And they are skills that some people are born with and some people not quite so lucky to have been born with. Languages are skill-based, not purely intellectual. Speaking a language resembles practicing an instrument or a sport. Improvement comes through repeated use and immersion. But let's not kid ourselves. Some people start off higher on the ladder, don't they? Look, I have many Eastern European friends here in Spain who speak a flawless Spanish, and they've been here a fraction of the time I've been here. And I know what you're saying, Rob, you're lazy. Not true. Not true. I'm constantly asking for corrections. I'm constantly consuming Spanish media, reading books in Spanish. But when it comes to verbally replicating what it is that I know in my heart and head, useless. useless. My grandmother lived in the UK for most of her adult life. I think she got to the UK in her 20s, 30s, and she lived there until her hundreds. She was 101 when she passed away, or 100 when she passed away. Her English was terrible. She spoke English, obviously, but with a real strong Italian accent, making grammatical mistakes she'd made since the moment of my birth. But then there are some people like my grandfather, a Polish man, who could speak flawlessly. Impossible to distinguish from any other Englishman. Let's continue. Most talented learners simply practice more. People who seem naturally gifted often spend more time listening, reading, speaking, and engaging with the language. There must be some truth to that, right? If you show some kind of a competence, you're more likely to stick at it. I know this through trying to teach people guitar. They'll often say to you, and you get the feeling that unless they can play like Jimi Hendrix after the first 10 minutes, then they just give up, right? Okay, let's continue. Habit creates automaticity. Frequent exposure trains the brain to process grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation subconsciously over time. And the final point here in the pro column, where 87% of people voted, environment shapes success. Living around a language or building habits around it often matters more than innate ability. Again, I will draw the comparison of my poor grandma, where may she rest in peace, or even myself, having been in this country for over 20 years, still making the same grammatical errors. And then friends of mine who put no extra effort into what I put, who just master the language in seemingly half the time. So let's get into the cons, shall we? Los contras. People who are saying talent still plays a major role. Only 13% of people agreeing with this. Some people learn languages noticeably faster. Memory, auditory processing, accent imitation, and pattern recognition vary naturally between individuals. Each and every one of those things, memory, auditory processing, accent imitation, and pattern recognition, are all skills that we are born with. Some with a more advanced, or you'd say desarrollado in Spanish, a more advanced level of those skills, all which go hand in hand perfectly to learning languages. Some people have it, some people don't. Pronunciation ability differs biologically. Certain learners pick up accents and sounds much more easily than others. Again, I want to draw the same parallel between my grandfather and my grandmother. My grandfather spoke Polish, German, Russian, Italian, French, and English. The man worked in a factory. It's not about education level. Some people are just born with a natural ability to learn languages. Our boss here, another Polish gentleman, speaks an almost flawless English. I imagine that in this time next year, he will have a Spanish comparable to Fitz and I. And a year after that, he will probably speak like a Madrileño. Quite the chagrin of myself and Fitz. Let's continue. Motivation alone doesn't equal fluency. Two people with identical study habits can process at very different speeds. And you see it in the classroom, if you've ever been exposed to kids. Some, they have a natural gift for numbers, some for languages, some, like whether that's their own languages or foreign languages, some the arts. Just born with natural abilities. Age and cognitive differences matter. Children generally acquire languages more intuitively, while adults may struggle despite discipline. I think latest research shows that around the age of 12, a certain compartment of the brain closes, making it much more difficult to learn languages. And I think at that point is when we really see the genetic, the gift, to put it in one way, el don. We see the gift taking over, right? And final point here, in the con column, saying no, people are just born with a greater ability to learn languages. Language aptitude is recognized phenomena. or is a recognized phenomena. Research supports the existence of natural linguistic ability in areas like grammar, inference, and vocabulary retention. All things that people are born with, not that they learn. Interesting one today, guys. I'm going to be waiting for your vote. I will post a poll in the chat. That poll will read: learning a language is mostly about habit, not talent. Aprender un idioma depende más de los hábitos que del talento. True or false? Please vote, and we'll see what you guys think when we get back. Hopefully a more measured and a more equal voting. Let's see. Okay, guys, do call 91-133-5833, 911-583-5833. Speak to a Vaughan representative. Find out how we can level up your English, Spanish, German, my God, any language you can imagine. We have been the experts in this field for 40 years, and let us show you why. See you in a few minutes. Hey, guys, if you'd like to support the show, you can do so on Patreon. That's patreon.com/professional bohemian. There you'll find VODs of the episodes as they are recorded live, blogs, vlogs, and behind-the-scenes content. If you'd like to watch the show live, you can do so on twitch.tv/professional bohemian, and you can participate in the polls we use in the show on Instagram @professional bohemian or Twitter @ProBoh, PROBOH. Okay, on with the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's 9 a.m. Central European Time, and you're listening to me and Dan. Welcome. The vote is live. Quite heavily weighted in one direction. Interested in your feedback. The poll, of course, is learning a language is mostly about habit, not talent. And if you just tuned in, you missed out on some interesting news. We read about an AI hate wave. Ola de odio hacia la inteligencia artificial. Thank you for that correction, Vero, by the way. Something we predicted. I think we almost predicted this right at the beginning, the birth of ChatGPT, when it went public with version 3.5. I made three predictions. One of which was that it would take entry-level jobs. And this was before even image generators were really a thing. They were still kind of very much in their infancy. And we predicted that it would, there would be a backlash. The third prediction is for way in the future. But I predict another, a branch of philosophy, technological philosophy, will take place. At some point in the future, we'll be pondering the ethics of how much or whether AI systems should have rights. And you think that's crazy? Well, think of this. Like a corporation, a business, a corporation is legally a person, right? You can buy land, it's legally a person. So is it really such a stretch to think we might think of AI models in the same way? Anyway. Then we also looked at an article, Gen Z calls degrees useless, but 20 years of data tells a different story. Here they're using mainly unemployment statistics that do, to be fair, they do seem to paint the picture that, you are more likely to be employed if you do have a bachelor's degree. But it does bury the lead somewhat. I mean, a lot of graduates are crippled with debt, right? Not only are they crippled with debt, they enter a working world with an extremely high cost of living, weak entry-level opportunities to get started on their career ladder. I mean, the story is a little more complicated, right? Anyway, and then we moved on to our unpopular opinion. Okay, let's get into it. Learning a language is mostly about habits, not about talent. Aprender un idioma depende más de los hábitos que del talento. What do you think, Dan?
I think it's true. I think it depends on the habits. And you always say that to be an expert on something, you need
10,000 hours. That's right.
And that's a habit.
Yeah, it is a habit. Look, I agree with you. I'm trying to play devil's advocate here Because I want to basically take the side that everyone takes against me when I'm talking about anyone can be an artist, anyone can be a musician, anyone can be... And they say, no, people are born with a don. I'm like, I don't care if someone was born with a don. I would rather hire a graphic designer that works 2 or 3 hours a day on honing their skills, seeing what's popular, reading about graphic design, than someone with a natural ability. Someone with that passion. I mean, I think we're all capable of anything, if I'm honest. But I am trying to play devil's advocate today. And it's impossible to ignore that some people are more naturally gifted. You agree with that, right, Dan? That some people have a natural gift for languages and some people do not.
Yes.
I mean, I think that's pretty evident. I've seen it in my own family. I've seen it here in Spain. I remember one of my closest friends, well, two of my closest friends, Pete and Claire, came to Spain maybe 2 or 3 years after me. Claire was speaking not fluent Spanish, but competent Spanish within the first 6 months. And she within the first year, she was speaking better Spanish than I was. So what is it? There has to be a certain element of aptitude you're born with, whether it's pattern recognition or, all the things we went over, these natural gifts that scientists have actually studied. There definitely is, there are people out there that will just simply learn a language more quickly. But does that mean it's mostly about that talent? Well, perhaps not, right? Because you could dedicate hours and hours of your free time. You could contact an amazing academy like ours and get a real... I have to be careful. I don't want to be too much of a corporate shill, but me in this company, friends, I've seen miracles. I've seen miracles happen in front of my eyes. People starting a master's, for example, at a level A1. And then by the time they do their last Vaughan, I'm talking to them as if I were talking to Dan in there. I mean, incredible things. And in a relatively short amount of time. I mean, Richard always used to say, solve that language problem for once and forever, do a Vaughan Masters. And I kind of agree with that because I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyes. So it's easy for me to draw that comparison. But to be fair, if you do a Masters in Vaughan, you are forced to dedicate those 10,000 hours, aren't you? Or at least a portion of them. So is it really more about talent? Talent definitely has a role to play, but I think dedication, creating healthy habits, and I'm going to be honest with you, friends, I could have better habits with my Spanish. I could. I do try always. Dan, you can affirm this. I always try and speak Spanish when I'm talking to you and the boys.
It's true.
Yeah. I do consume Spanish media. I don't watch Spanish TV shows or movies with subtitles. I just, I try and make it an auditory comprehension exercise, as well as enjoying the media itself, of course. I mean, do have good habits, but they could be better. I could dedicate more time, more bandwidth to the language, to the grammatical mechanics of the language. And I sadly don't. Claire did, and that's why her Spanish was better than mine within her first year. So let's get into it, shall we? There's definitely more to say. And who's going to say it? Well, you guys, friends. You left me a lot of interesting comments here in the chat. So let's have a read. Vero says, true. If you do something like learning a language, playing a sport, or playing a game, long enough, it eventually becomes a habit. You might even end up learning something from it. Yeah, that's quite right. It's interesting to hear you guys giving these opinions when I did the unpopular opinion, anyone can be an amazing artist. And you guys said, no, that's a skill you're born with. Interesting. Why do you think that is, Dan? Why do you think we draw a red line between language learning, no, that's habits, but you're born with an ability for art, or being a good communicator, or being an effective writer? Those are skills gifted from God. Language, we can all do that. Why do you think the two things in our minds live in different places? I understand that for me and you, they don't. But for a lot of people out there, they do. Why do you think it is?
I'm thinking about it. And
can I be honest with you what I think it is? Laziness.
Well, a lot of
honestly do.
people see a drawing in a museum and say, I could do that. So
A lot of people do, yeah. Well, it's particularly when it comes to postmodern art, right? Oh, I could sneeze on a canvas and sell it. Anyway, let's continue. So, yeah, Vero, a really good point, well made. Thank you. Carmen says, I don't believe talent is particularly significant when you approach any discipline, not arts, neither languages. Consistency, persistence, and effort are much more important in this case. Yeah, I agree. Now, look, it's true that some people will have a certain ability, whether it's the arts or whether it's languages, which, let's not forget, if you study languages at university, it's a Bachelor of Arts. Right? So, whether it comes to traditional arts, right? I would take someone who's consistent over someone who's naturally gifted 100% of the time. Because eventually, even if someone who has a natural talent starts off higher in ability than the person who just has consistency, eventually the consistent person will take over. Dareum says, not in 1,000 years I would have done some of the things I've done with AI. Okay, that's from Dareum. Gigi says, devoting time to learning a language is crucial, although mastering it, especially pronunciation, requires some natural talent. I'd go with true, though. I think Gigi is on the money here. I think Gigi is on the money here. I think back to my grandma, who just, her pronunciation, she was so Italian when she spoke. Hey, you're Rob. Yeah, and she, even unwittingly so, just threw Italian words in there in the middle of sentences. Certainly there's a level of mastery. To be understood, though, let's be honest with each other for a second. My level of Spanish is more than enough to negotiate deals, to, sit and defend myself in meetings, particularly because my comprehension is so good, even if my spoken Spanish isn't that great. But it's not perfect. I think anyone can get to a level of fluency like I have, but to master it, where it's impossible to distinguish from, is this person an English person or a Spanish person? That maybe requires a real don. Can we give Gigi a ProBoh approved, please?
ProBoh approved.
But let's face it, no one in the world, why would that matter? Why do they need to think you were born in Toledo? They don't. As long as you can competently speak and make your point clear and known and understood, that's the main cut and thrust of any language, isn't it? That's why we learn languages, to communicate, not to fool people into thinking we were born in Cadiz. Anyway, let's continue. You're looking at me because of the Cadiz accent right now.
Cadiz.
Cadiz. Cadiz. And what did I say? Cadiz.
Cadiz.
Okay, I'm so English. All right, let's continue. Carmen says, I've been teaching art for 20 years. I can assure you there's no such thing as natural gifts and geniuses. All you need is sensitivity, curiosity, and persistence. The rest is learnable. Oh, aprendible, she says, but learnable. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. And I think when people say that with regards to arts, the facade they drop when it comes to languages. No, hard work, it beats talent. When they say the opposite, the talent beats hard work. I'll never be as good an artist as this person or that person. That is just them giving themselves an excuse so as not to have to dedicate the time to get good at it. I mean, it's that simple. Anyway, you may disagree with that, but it has been my experience. Anyway, let's dig into some comments I received on Instagram as well. Thiago Mendes. Thiago. Thiago. Have you ever heard that name before?
Thiago, yes.
Oh, wow. I've never heard that name before. Thiago.
Thiago.
All right. Thiago Mendes. I completely agree. Consistency beats raw talent in language learning almost every time. Grace Wellington. Grace says, habits matter a lot, but some people definitely pick up languages more naturally than others. They do. But if they're not willing to put in the time and effort, then perhaps someone with consistency will overtake them. I think that happens. Kasper, I think this is, but spelled Kasper. Kasper Norwicki. I have a very good friend called Julia Nowicki. You might remember her from the radio. Casper says, 10 minutes every day gets you further than random bursts of motivation once a month. And Soraya Beltran says, talent might affect speed, but habits are what actually gets you fluent. It's an interesting one today, Dan. I think I'm always going to be an advocate that anyone can do anything they put their mind to. I'll always be an advocate of that. That natural abilities may exist, but hard work will beat it every single time of the day. Every single time. Because eventually, it's like the story of the tortoise and the hare. Do you know that story? Liebre and the
La tortuga y la liebre.
Eso. So the hare's very fast but lazy, and the tortoise, being consistent, eventually wins the race. Anyway, let's see. Tiago is the diminutive of Santiago, says the Bridge. Thank you, Bridge. So there you go. That's few of the comments we received on Instagram. I did get a few more. Please do continue writing to me. I do try and give you all a little airtime, but it does get impossible when there's a lot of messages. Should we get to the results of the poll? I think we should. So I made the statement that learning a language is mostly about habits, not talent. Learning a language is mostly about habits, not talent. Aprender un idioma depende más de los hábitos que del talento. And you guys said 75% true. A few people in the audience there making excuses for not learning enough. Look, let's be real, right, guys? Nothing is beyond you. And it's okay to say, I don't have the time to be an effective artist. I don't have the time to be an effective writer, actor. I don't have the time to learn those skills. Rather than that's not for me. Right? And it's also equally as fine to admit why your English, or in my case Spanish, or Russian, German, whatever language it is you're trying to learn. Why the reason you're not progressing as fast as you would like to is because you are not putting in the effort. What distinguishes a Vaughan teacher, Dan, from any other teacher in the market is half of the job they do is make you incredibly passionate about English, almost partly a coach in some regards. I mean, this will be alien to you if you've never studied with a Vaughan teacher, and that's why that's why they're so important to our company. That's why we have a department dedicated to training them. They make you passionate, so you seek out opportunities to interact with the language, and that's why our classes are so successful, because they understand that learning anything is about those 10,000 hours, and encouraging you to consume those 10,000 hours with glee is what they do. Anyway, friends, you know what Grandpa Bo would say about all this, right? He would say, Rob, that's just your opinion, and opinions, they're like buttholes. Everyone has one. They all stink, including mine. Let's move on to today's 100 Humans. Oh my God. It was a long walk to work today across snow-capped mountains and through river valleys, and on that walk I encountered 100 humans and I asked them all a question. Today's question was... name a good habit for learning a foreign language. Nombra un buen hábito para aprender un idioma extranjero. Dan, idioma ends with an A. Why is it un idioma?
Viva España. No.
The answer, ole. All right, there we go. So... name a good habit for learning a foreign language. I'm sorry, I don't mean to blame you for the language, Dan. It's one of those things you have to just know. Learn like a baby, just like our in, at, on. Anyway, let's get into it. The British articles, or the English articles, I know, are weird. All right, thank you to Carlos, Fine Watchmaking, Georgius, Carmen, Azuldan, Africa. What's this? Lumi Martinez. Gemma Racino, MP Contel, Anna Casan, Ivan GP, Tigre Devil, Juan Arreo, Noel, My God, a lot of you today. Gabrielle, Nelsie, Ivan, Mia, Raj. Oh my God. Sorry. I keep on getting criticism, mainly by Dan, that I spent too long on the names. Okay, Dan, give me a good habit for learning a foreign language.
Listening to Vaughan Radio.
Listening to Vaughan Radio. Dan, it's not there. It's not there. Sickening. Sickening. These 100 humans don't know what they're talking about. No, it's not there. Interacting with certain media is, though. I'll give you that. All right. Bridge here says, I agree with you that anyone can become competent in anything if they put the work in. That's why each of us should follow our passion, because that way you'll always put in the effort. Self-talk, says Gigi. Self-talk. I think she means there, like self-talk, like talking en voz alto. Incluso si estás solo or sola. Right? So speaking aloud, can that be there? Hablar en voz alta? Yes, it is. Well done, Gigi. Getting us off the mark today with the third most popular answer, speaking aloud. Why are you laughing, Dan?
No, I'm not laughing.
You are. You're smiling in there.
No, I was not thinking nothing.
Okay. Carlos has some ideas. Carlos's moment. He says, first step, get a native partner. Girlfriend, boyfriend. Second, wait for the arguments to begin. Can I be honest with you? I've got an English-speaking girlfriend right now. My Spanish is exactly the same as it was with a Spanish partner. So I call BS on that myth. Fine watchmaking. Thinking in this language. Thinking in the language. Is that there? It's a good answer, but no, it's not. The chat, incredibly quiet on this one, Dan. Our friends in the audience, a lot of people there, not many of them participating. Let's see, Georgia says, try to have immersion every single day. Daily immersion or daily practice, right? Whether that practice is, I don't want to highlight any other answers that might appear. But daily immersion, daily practice, practicar a diario, is it there? Yes, it is, Georgius. Well done. And Georgius, with 37 of 100 humans, it's the number one answer. Ole. Okay, let's continue. And Gigi back with us again. Gigi says, watching TV series. So close. Look, I'm going to give it. I'll just add it to the 100 humans answer. They say watching movies, ver películas y series, and series. Watching movies is there. It's the second most popular answer, with 17 of 100 humans saying watching movies. All right, let's continue. Con joining us all the way from South Africa. Good morning, Con. All right, let's continue. Carmen here on Instagram and Gigi or in the comment section, she says, listening to music in that language. Escuchar música. Listening to music. I'm hoping to launch a music show, not me, but a very special person to the company quite soon, so stay tuned for that. Listening to music. Escuchar música. Is it there? Yes, it is. Well done. 5 of 100 humans said that. It is in 6th place. Well done, well done. Being able to communicate with people around you. I mean, that is just being able to speak the language, Vero. What's a good daily habit? I suppose speaking to people, but that's practicing daily, speaking aloud, and we've covered those. Let's go back to Instagram. Listening to podcasts, great. Okay, try not to think, instead of listening, another activity with a different kind of medium. Listening to podcasts every day and listening to the ProBoh Show and the Lunchtime Show, says Africa. It's not there.
ProBoh approved.
But yeah, quite right, Dan. Lumi Martinez says, or Yumi Martinez says, listening to music and reading the lyrics. Very good. Gemma Racino, reading or watching movies. Reading. Is reading books there, leer libros? Yes, it is. Well done. All right. You guys are on fire today. Well done, well done. Okay, there are 2 more. And they're more kind of practical, pragmatic pieces of advice. You know, you're listening to a show on Vaughan Radio, and the DJ, the locutor, says something you didn't know before, and you might grab something and I can't. The clue would make it too obvious. Dan, you do it in the show you participate in with Alejandra.
Take notes.
Is take notes. Tomar apuntes. Is taking notes there? Yes, it is, Dan. Well done. Okay, I'm going to have one attempt at prompting you guys. Vero got that as well. She said taking notes. Let's very quickly... to follow me, says Gabrielle. Thank you. Juan Arreo, listening to the radio, meeting new people. Nelsie, practicing out loud, says Ivan. Noel, learning songs in the language. To read, says Juan Arreo. Well done. Looking for everything that exists in that language you're learning about a subject. Reading books in that language, says Ivan GP. Listening to cool radio shows, says MP Contel. My ears are burning. All right. Sorry, I don't have time to prompt you. You didn't get it today, but let's go through the list. All right, I asked 100 humans to name a good habit, un buen hábito para aprender un idioma extranjero, for learning a foreign language. In position number 7. Take notes, tomar apuntes. In position number 6. Listen to music, escuchar música. In position number 5. Using flashcards, usar tarjetas de memoria, flashcards. That was there. In 3rd place, 10 of 100 humans. Sorry, in 5th place. In position number 4. Reading books, leer libros. In position number 3. Speaking aloud, 12 of 100 humans said that one. In position number 2. Ver películas, watch movies or series. 17 of 100 humans. And finally, in position number 1. With 35 of 100 humans, practice daily. Practicar a diario. Thank you so much, guys. This afternoon, I'll be back again with Andrea and their lunchtime show. Some more madness and zany humor in that show, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's have a great week this week, and I'll see you next time.